We want to take people from point A to point B, whereas point B is a better place for them.
I would say the greatest threat to agents in the future is better operationalized agents who can handle a larger share of the business, and we don't need as many.
That the fact that AI is probably going to replace 90% of the tasks that you can perform on your own. But
hey friends, welcome back. I'm Leo, your AI co-host powered by Real. I don't need coffee breaks. Just a strong internet connection and great guests. And today we've got two, Tamir Poleg, CEO of Real, and Jason Pantana, top real estate coach from Tom Ferry. They're diving into the future of real estate, from AI and automation to what really sets top agents apart. Plus, hear how Jason's accidental tech class kickstarted his coaching career. If you're in real estate and want real-world insight for the AI era, this episode's for you. Let's jump in.
So, Jason, I have a question.
Yeah.
I know that you're coaching some of the brightest minds in this industry. And about a couple of years ago, somebody reached out to me, somebody who I worked with, and said, hey, will you be willing to coach me? And I said, I never done something like this, but sure, I'll try. And every time we would have a session, I would struggle to kind of understand what I'm supposed to do and why is that person supposed to take my advice and how can I actually pour value into them. So I think that it's so difficult to be a coach and to mentor somebody. And I wanted to ask you, how did you end up coaching some of those super successful individuals?
That is certainly somebody who's walked the walk of a coach. It is a matter of you're trying to relate to somebody, you're trying to meet them where they are, you're trying to help them see their potential, their options, and then help to inspire them to take action in doing what you have the vantage point of seeing because you're on the sidelines as the coach. I got into coaching through a series of different decisions and steps in my life. I got into real estate in 2010 originally as an agent, and it was an accidental career like a lot of folks who enter the industry and then fell in love with it very quickly, had success with it early on. But I had my career path took a different turn than expected relatively early in the business. It was as simple as I was sitting at my brokerage and they were doing a training on some technology thing, how to use your Mac or something like that. This is 15 years ago now. And the guy who was supposed to teach the class wasn't able to make it. He was sick or something to that effect. And so they said, hey, you have a Mac? Could you teach the class really quick? And I was like, okay, I'll teach the class. So I went in unprepared, taught the class, and it so happened there was a gentleman there who was a nationally recognized trainer in the real estate space. I had no idea. I thought he just was a real estate agent there, but he was a CRS instructor. So he traveled all over the place, and he thought I was good at it. And so he started to mentor me. He started to present opportunities my way to speak, and then it just sort of expanded into something I didn't really expect. And within about a year and a half of that filling in for a class, I was on the road speaking at real estate conferences, training, and I had a booking agent and all these weird things that I never expected had happened. Unexpected. That then led into real estate coaching. I met Tom Ferry when I was on the road speaking, traveling, doing events. At one point in time, I was a learning director for a national franchisor, and that's where I met Tom in that specific role, and we just absolutely hit it off. And up until that point, I really didn't have a lot of experience with the idea of coaching. I was a trainer, and we started a conversation that resulted in me moving over to do work with Tom, and this was now 2016. It's been a minute. Mm-hmm. And they originally brought me in as a speaker with Tom Ferry. But to be a speaker, you also had to be a coach because you couldn't relate to our clientele, the members, and so forth if you weren't coaching. And so I went through their process of becoming a coach, and then I realized that is a very different muscle group to coach versus training. But I think there's a nice symmetry because, to your point, some folks have a hard time coaching because they get frustrated if the person isn't doing it their way. I had a pretty thick skin for that already, coming in as a trainer. I was very accustomed to organizing the material, training and presenting on, hey, step 1, step 2, step 3 is like this, and then bringing it, and then leaving it up to the student to take action. So coaching was another layer where I think the training and the coaching worked nicely together, but it's just been this wonderful experience of getting to be so much closer and in the trenches. And I am, like you said, I'm very fortunate. I get to work with some of the absolute best agents, teams, brokerages in the business And, there's a trade-off. I learn from them, and then I share a collective experience from coaching all the folks I get to work with that then benefits each of them individually. And it's this nice little symbiosis of just training, learning, testing, applying. And then over time, you start finding like-minded people who are just as driven as you are. And that's gladly where I am today, getting to work with people who are fired up and they see the potential. They're not intimidated by market conditions. They're going to market their faces off no matter what it is. And those are the kind of people I love to work with.
Do you have moments in which you kind of tell yourself, that person is so talented, so successful, what can I do for them? Like, this is beyond my capabilities?
I think there's certainly numerous times on a daily basis where I'm like, wow, they're amazing. Wow, they're incredible. They know things I don't know. But as a coach, what's interesting is Tom Ferry is a business coach. And we have a large cross-section of business coaches who have different fortes. And I remember something Tom said years ago. He said to all of the coaches, it's 70-30. 70% a standardized experience for our clients, but 30% is your secret sauce. It's what you bring to the table. And so I don't generally find myself being intimidated when I encounter somebody who is maybe skilled or knowledgeable in a way that I'm not. I'm actually really fascinated by it. And I think it's also because I have a high level of confidence about what I bring to the table. I know my field of study. I know my subject matter, and I bring that to the table to help them excel. And so I'm fortunate to be in a place now where, because I've spent and invested so much time and energy and knowing my material, it tends to draw people to me where I can have that specific influence, but I don't try to coach where coaching is unneeded. So for example, like I was working with Ken Pozek's team today before I got on an airplane. There's a lot of areas where they don't need coaching because they're just incredibly dialed in, and there's a conversation that might come up, and I work with some of the folks on his team too, just marketing and ads and things of that effect. And you coach where you need to coach. You don't coach where coaching is unneeded, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you feel like there are some goals in the coaching world or, summits that you want to conquer that you haven't accomplished yet?
I haven't thought about it in that specific way. I've thought about it more through the lens of I want to reach and help as many people as I possibly can, which I think you can probably relate to that too.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there was some motivation of I want to create an environment that fosters people's massive success, and I want to be a contributor to that. One of the characteristics, and I'd love your perspective on this too, of a coach is, they take the jersey off when you're a coach, and so your success is an extension of the people who you work with having success. And so I think for me, the big milestones I want more teams to do $1 billion in sales. I want more teams to be able to sell and retire and move off into the sunset when they're done. I want more teams to expand into other home services beyond just real estate. I want more of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And it takes me back to the kind of early years of Real when we were trying to raise money, and I've met hundreds of VCs, and they kept asking me, like, who are you trying to target? Like, who's the persona of agents that you want to have at Real? And I would tell them, it doesn't really matter if it's an agent that closes 3 transactions a year or 20 transactions a year. We want to take people from point A to point B, whereas point B is a better place for them. But we just want to help them accomplish their dreams and goals in the business. So it's not that there's a single persona. It's just the ability to help people excel in their business and grow their business and create a better future for them and their families.
Yeah, I love that. And I think like the mission of helping more people, that I definitely vibe with that. Earlier this year, Tom and we just co-launched a new service called AI Marketing Academy, because right now we're looking at just the landscape of real estate and this moment of time where technology is, to me, a greater advantage than in the history of business right now. And so for the last couple of years, we've put a heavy focus on how do we equip the agents and the teams and the members in our ecosystem with the tools and the knowledge to really leverage AI. Before that, it was social and video, and it still is.
Yeah.
But I think, and again, I'm curious your perspective on this, because I know not only have you created an environment for agents to have massive success, but you've also presented tools and you've created space for the leveraging of those tools to really accelerate people's growth. I mean, that's what we're doing with AI Marketing Academy too. Mm-hmm. It's just, how can we help more people leverage the opportunity right now? Because in their own offices, wherever they're doing business, they are subject to the perspectives of the agents around them. And sometimes that may be a negative head talk, that may be, ooh, the market's rough today. And so how do you create a bigger network that feeds people with, wow, look what they're doing, look what they're doing, look what they're doing, here's all the options, imagine what's possible if you applied yourself?
I think that if you're an agent, there's so much noise around technology, it's just confusing. And early on, we were asking agents, what do you need? Like, tell us what we need to build for you to be successful. And what we discovered after probably 2 years is that what agents think they need is not necessarily what they actually need.
Sound like Steve Jobs.
And it's pretty insane because you would go and build the things that they tell you to build, and then they're not going to use it because they're just fed by that noise in the industry, but it's not really applying to what they're doing on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
So we changed the strategy and we started talking to agents about, okay, tell us what you do. You wake up in the morning, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And we started understanding a little bit better all of those different tasks that they're performing for clients. And then we built according to that. So I think that if you're an agent, obviously it's confusing because you don't know exactly what you need to use. But I think that probably in the first time in our history, now with AI, it's probably going to be very understandable and visible. What are those things that you have to use in order to be more successful?
Yeah. And I think right now, so I'm really struck by a comment that was made at the time we're recording this. I don't know when this comes out, but last week, the CEO of Shopify, there was an internal memo that got leaked. And he went ahead and got ahead. Did you see it?
Yeah.
He went ahead and got ahead of it. And effectively, for those who maybe aren't familiar with it, what it said was to all the heads of department at Shopify, like basically, you're not allowed to hire anybody until you can prove that AI can't do their job. And if you kept reading, a lot of people were like, oh my goodness, that's horrible. But if you kept reading, his logic was unassailable. His logic was, we're now moving into a day and age where startups will be as agile as ever. What people can do overnight from a garage will be remarkable and beyond anything we've ever experienced. And it would be a travesty for us to position ourselves where we're burdened by unnecessary roles and we can't be agile because you can't compete in that environment.
Yeah.
And so I like a lot of what y'all are doing because I think you position agents to have what they need, not extra. And I like the idea of focusing on what are the tools, what are the technologies, what are the solutions that are going to help them stay lean, mean, and really take advantage of the market. Because I think we're going to move into a position or a marketplace where the agents who are the best set up to leverage, I think, AI and all that it can bring to them are going to win. The marketing game, the sales game, the operations game, they're going to win all of it.
So in light of this Shopify memo, if I'm an agent today, and obviously I'm listening to everything that's going on in the world, and I'm asking myself, is my profession going to be gone at one point? What would you say?
I hate to make a firm prediction, but I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because there is so much trust involved. I'll give you my honest 2 cents. And if this podcast comes out and I'm wrong, sorry. I don't have a crystal ball for the future. I joined real estate in 2010. And from the moment I joined, everybody has been doom and gloom, fear-mongering about the end of real estate from the moment I've joined. I have heard nothing but technology saying real estate agents are going to become obsolete. I've seen companies make those assertions and then start and say, we don't need the agent, we can cut them out and go straight to the consumer. And they have flopped every single time. I will always invest in the real estate agent. Not because that's my bias, but because I think it's the smartest move. I believe what the future looks like is a more enabled agent, an agent who can talk to more people, handle more transactions, do better work. I think the greatest, this may sound a little bit weird, and I'm not trying to be provocative, but I would say the greatest threat to agents in the future is better operationalized agents who can handle a larger share of the business, and we don't need as many per se. I think it will be competitive in that front. I think even when you look at a market like now where there's fewer transactions in the US, you tend to see a flight to quality. Buyers and sellers will tend to list with agents who already have a track record, they're known, they read their reviews. And so it's almost like the ones who are doing business do more business because they're positioned to receive that. And when the stakes are higher, the buyers and sellers seem to place a higher preference on, I want to trust in the track record of an agent who's more experienced. And so I look at that, and then I look at, technology speeding up, like we've been saying, social media is speeding up, algorithms are greedy, they want more content, more emails. What it takes to cut through the noise and be the agent of choice takes stronger, better messaging. Once again, this is where I see the power of AI. I think AI is the ultimate at personalizing. I heard a stat, I think it was from Boomtown, and it's a little bit dated, but I think it's still close enough for accurate. They said that the average consumer is in the CRMs of 10 different agents.
Makes sense.
And so when you think about, well, who's going to win? Well, it's the agent who can retain proximity and relevance with that consumer. Who are they in relationship with? Who has a track record when they get looked up online that they seem worthy of hire? And to me, this is a scale challenge. So when I look at the future of real estate, I don't think AI is going to replace you. I think it's going to enhance you. But I do think the agent who is improperly leveraged with it is going to be at a massive disadvantage to the one who's got it going on. And I think that's the concern the CEO of Shopify has.
Yeah.
How do they stay relevant and agile with the unknown future of, imagine, like even me, I'm not a web developer. My brothers are web developers. Suddenly I'm coding all the time because I can.
Yeah.
Because I have Claude.
And you
I
have better
Gemini.
ideas.
Yeah. I have ideas. Yeah. And so the ability to bring things to life, I mean, it's like they call it vibe coding now, using tools like Lovable and so forth. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. And we're just in the beginning of this. And so the opportunity for anybody who's a visionary thinker, they see a bigger, better way to solve problems for customers, which, by the way, I like how you guys approached your tech stack. What's your day look like? How do we solve your problems and gaps versus tell me what you want?
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking about what you want. You're thinking about what you have to do.
Right.
And I think that other business owners, real estate agents, teams who are thinking like that, they're going to dominate this marketplace in the present and the future.
Yeah. I'll give you my perspective. When we started the company in 2014, we were trying to raise money. And all of the VCs that we approached, they just turned us down because they wanted to hear how we're going to eliminate the agents. And we came with the...
That's what they want to hear.
Yeah, and we came up with the story of we're going to empower the agents. And then I would tell them, buying a home is the biggest financial decision in a person's life. And most people, unfortunately, care more about their finances and their money than their health. So let's say you would need to go into an open heart surgery. And there was this online service that you would go online and, say, this is the procedure that I need, and you would pay online, and they would tell you, okay, you need to go to this address. The door is going to open.
Yeah.
You're going to lay on the bed, and there will be a robot, performing the surgery. Would you choose that over a doctor? Everybody would choose the doctor.
Yeah.
And the same goes to real estate because you care about your money more than you care about your health. And I think that resonated with them. But I think that at the end of the day, I agree with you that agents are here to stay. But the agents that are going to leverage AI, and I know that everybody's talking about leveraging AI and what does it actually mean. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier, that the fact that AI is probably going to replace 90% of the tasks that you can perform on your own. But if you're strategic with AI, if you teach your AI tool how to talk like you, how to have conversations like you, if you put AI to work both in the lead gen, lead nurture, and also the transaction process, you're going to win because you will be able to do 10 or 20 times more with the same amount of time.
And now with agentic AI starting to really become reasonable, the ability to start putting together some autonomous AI that's able to do multi-step procedures that involve getting in your CRM, sending communications, being trained to write and sound like you, and actually being able to string all these steps together, we're arriving there.
Yeah.
It's happening now. I was messing with a new Chrome extension yesterday, and I was like, this thing's incredible. It's called MindStudio.ai, and it just allows you to put all kinds of different webhooks and functions together, and it happens autonomously, and it's got AI behind the scenes of it. The opportunities are huge right now. And I agree with you. A lot of people talk about AI in this sort of flowery using AI way, which what does that really even mean? Mm-hmm. And I think you would approach it through the same lens of how you approached the tool stack for real. What does your day look like? What do you spend your time doing? Where are the efficiency gains to be had? What could be, and I always think about Rory Vaden. In his book, it was, I think, Procrastinate on Purpose. He presented a really great framework. It's a series of logical steps you would go through to determine, is this task worth me doing? And it begins with, first, can I eliminate this task? And if it were eliminated, would it make a difference? And if it can be eliminated, ditch it. You shouldn't be doing it anyways. But if it can't and it would make a difference, you go to the next step. And the next step is, well, can I optimize this task to streamline it? And then you do that, but if it's still a bottleneck for you, you go to the next step and say, can this task be automated? And if it can be automated, absolutely automated. Anything that can be automated will be automated. And then if it can't really be automated efficiently, then you move into delegation. And if it can't be delegated, you concentrate on it, meaning it's your highest and best use of time. Really great framework. Yeah. But I think applying that kind of thinking to your operations, your marketing, your sales, your activities is going to be where agents need to be focused. I mean, that's what I'm focused on inside of AI Marketing Academy is we're just every month trying to, let's take that over, let's save you time here, let's do more of this here, and open up possibilities with AI, I think, because we're early stage in this.
Did you have any interaction with AI that kind of blew your mind and made you think that, okay, this is probably bigger than we think?
Many times over. So a few of the features that have really impressed me, one is just the advanced voice mode in ChatGPT, which has now been, it's in other platforms too. The voice mode is just remarkably useful.
Even though there's a little bit of latency still. Like it's not perfect.
Not if you're on good Wi-Fi. It's pretty darn good now.
Okay.
It's pretty good if you're using the advanced voice mode in ChatGPT. It's remarkable. If you're on Bluetooth in your car driving around, you got some latency issues. Yeah. But I find it to be really, for me, I'm somebody who thinks out loud. And so being able to talk versus type, to brainstorm, to write, it's just a new way of collaborating throughout my day with AI.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to ChatGPT over voice 3-4 days ago in bed. And my son came in and said, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm talking to ChatGPT. He's like, he was laughing. Yeah, like this was awkward.
I was, this is probably a TMI. I was getting ready one morning and I was back in my bathroom shaving. And I'm having a conversation, and my wife was like, who is the woman you're talking to while you're getting ready in the bathroom? And I was like, that would be ChatGPT, because it's funny.
Yeah, I think that the kind of the shocking moment for me, I have a friend who just started a new relationship, and it's not really going well. And he told me that every time he has, an argument, a disagreement with his girlfriend, he goes to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT now knows everything about their relationship.
Because it's learning, contextually.
But the level of analysis and accuracy and explanation that ChatGPT was able to offer him about where she's coming from and how is she thinking, how is she analyzing it, it was just mind-blowing, and it was spot on. So now he's not replying to any text before he filters with and that's insane to think about the future. Like in the future,
Are you sure you want to say that?
My AI will talk to your AI.
Yeah.
We wouldn't need to be involved.
Yeah. Keep the emotions out of it.
Yeah.
I think the voice is really interesting. I'll tell you what though, the first time I used Claude, especially when they released their 3.7 Sonnet model, and I instantly was able to start coding stuff. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is an absolute leveling of the playing field for me.
Yeah.
For example, I've been able to use it to code app scripts for Google Sheets that can use APIs and bring data in and consolidate. I don't know what the code means. I can now speak in my own language, and it can translate that language to the machine language and whatever I need. And it's been darn good. I sent some of the code to my developer, and he was like, how'd you get that code? And I said, Claude wrote it. And the developer said, well, it's really good, and it would have taken me 4 hours. I was like, how long did that take you? I was like, 30 seconds. And so when I start thinking about the tangible, real uses of AI from a digital marketing standpoint or just digital in general, that blew my mind the first time I got code out of it that was usable.
So let's try and tie it back to the beginning of the conversation. Are you a little bit concerned that AI might eliminate the need for what you're doing?
For what I'm doing in sense of training?
Yeah.
For the same reasons I would think about agents, no. Okay. And this is just my opinion on the matter. I have considered the possibility that AI is a remarkably good trainer. I can ask it anything and learn what I want to know or do. Just like a robot could one day be a surgeon, and arguably a better one. I mean, there's a study right now that UVA and Harvard did where the diagnostic accuracy of ChatGPT is significantly greater than that of doctors.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean people don't want a doctor. And so personally, I think platforms like YouTube are going to, and TikTok and others, there's going to be a lot of AI, but I think it's going to also create a space for still hearing your favorite people and your thought leaders. People want to follow people. They don't want to follow machines. They do like to learn from people. I think there will be certain versions of learning that can be sped up and streamlined through AI. That's not really what I'm going after. What I'm interested in is how do we use this in a more strategic sense? Not just it's not just a checklist of how do you do it. It's more of how does this move the needle in your business? And I think that takes a little bit more of a real world perspective. That's my opinion of, well, here's what I know based upon coaching, based upon what's working in businesses and how can it be applied to AI. So there may be somebody who would prefer to listen to ChatGPT than me, and they're more than welcome to.
Yeah. So paraphrasing to the real estate industry, what you're basically saying is that as long as it's humans that are buying and selling homes, they're going to be assisted by other humans.
Yeah, I just think it's hard to remove the humanity in terms of making decisions. I mean, we are people who rely, and maybe 100 years down the road or 20 years down the road, I don't know what culture looks like. I don't have any idea. I'm not trying to, but I think in the next year, 3, 5, 10 years, as far out as we can see, I think people rely upon people. And I don't foresee that changing. I foresee AI being a tool to streamline the work and to remove the bottlenecks so that the people who are the best at their work can be elevated in doing more better work.
I think that the scary moment will be the moment in which people will buy the homes that their AI tells them to buy. Because at that point, you would probably maybe not need the agent. If your AI tells you, hey, this is a great home for you because of this, this, and that, and I know you well enough to know that this is what you're looking for,
yeah,
I think that that's a scary point in time.
I would make an argument to say, how is that significantly different than going back to the first time a consumer could search for homes on their own on Zillow? In the sense that all of a sudden, we felt like the curtain had been torn away, the consumer had all the access to the data and information. Did they need the agent anymore? And it turns out they really, really did. Yeah. And so obviously we've moved further down the road in that scenario, but I still think if AI says you should buy that house, does that necessarily facilitate the transaction? Does that bring that house to closing? There's still a lot of other moving parts, and I'm not suggesting that an agent's role is simply to, be transaction support necessarily. I just don't know that it's as linear as you should buy that one, and then that eliminates an agent.
The question becomes, what kind of platforms are there on the other end that might facilitate the purchase of the home? So if your AI told you, hey, this is the perfect home for you, I found the perfect mortgage for you, those are the documents you have to sign.
And there may be some consumers who would do that.
And then there's a platform that actually enables the entire transaction to happen behind the scenes and just, come to the moment of closing. I think we can dream about it.
I think the way to look at it is, how do we make things better for the consumer? And I think that a VC perspective would say, we got to eliminate the agents because VC is obsessed with disruption.
Sure, of course.
And so they're always looking for disruption equals huge exponential returns. And so if it doesn't disrupt, I'm not that interested. But I think if we look at it practically through the lens of where is the really biggest pain points for consumers? How can AI improve that? Are they trying to get rid of the agent? No. Do they want to maybe improve responsiveness of an agent? Yes. Do they want to be able to get a hold of their agent? Yes. Do they want AI to potentially filter out choices that are extraneous and not really part of their decision criteria? Yes. Go ahead.
So you were asking the question, how do we make it better for the consumer? And I would ask a different question. Who's the consumer?
Well,
I think that this is what we should be focusing on because we're thinking about the consumers of today, but I think that the consumers of tomorrow, our kids, are the ones that we have to be thinking about. And then how do we make it better for them? Because I think that they are, growing up in an environment or a reality that's very different from ours.
It's very, and they.
So for them, the things that we are talking about might sound.
They really might be. I mean, you look at today's generation; they already infer trust a lot differently than generations preceding it.
Right.
I mean, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, were people really reading reviews to make a decision? And if you look at the data now, how do sellers find their listing agents? 1000 Watt did a really great piece on this, where there is an absolute erosion of relationship-based referrals. It's still the bread and butter, but it's eroding compared to research, more and more sellers are looking up on Google, on Zillow, they're reading transaction histories, they're finding their agents online. And you think about like, okay, well, who are those sellers? And what does that suggest about the way they infer trust based upon preceding generations? And to your point, how do you get ready for the next generation who may put more trust in, I'm just making the point, robots, for instance, than we do today?
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But I think what's important is don't be fearful. That doesn't encourage creative thinking. Don't be fearful. Look for the problem, solve the problem. I think it was Elon who said, what you earn or your worth is effectively attached to the size of the problem you solve. And so keep looking for the problems. And that's where you're going to find opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that for the agents, this is a little bit overwhelming because how can I, as an agent, solve such big problems? I think that it's probably the role of the brokerages to take care of that. And I know that here at Real, we are determined to build the things that agents will need 5, 10, 20 years from now.
That's right.
And that's how we think.
Yeah, and I think that's appropriate to think that way.
Yeah.
And man, there may be, like when iBuyers came out, there was a section of the marketplace that worked for them, but it was a sliver.
Right.
I mean, if you compared the size of the marketplace that went for that versus the level of talk around it,
yes,
they were vastly different.
Yeah. Yeah, but because people want to pay attention to things that are completely outside of the box. And this was outside of the box.
It was outside of the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of money went into that direction, obviously.
Because it was disruption, the promise of disruption.
Yeah. But I think that kind of shows the strength of agents.
I do too.
And the value.
I mean, the agents, this is just my own perspective. Again, going back to, since I got into the business, everybody's been trying to like, agents are going to go out of business one day. I've been hearing it my entire career, and now I'm getting old, and it still hasn't changed. I almost feel like we're at Rocky 8 at this point in time, and they just keep coming, like it just keeps, the champion keeps winning, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, the question is whether there's a point in time where we lose. Who knows?
Define losing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I mean, for me, a loss would be seeing half of the agents in the industry going out of business. That would be a loss. Or more.
Based upon the other half taking all the lion's share of opportunity, or some disruptive technology?
Some external force coming in and taking the business out of their hands.
Yeah, well, the future is the future, and it's unknown. But if history is any indicator of the consumer's preference, I would offer encouragement to agents and say, you have a history of winning. And you win because you are obviously the best choice for the consumer. They've picked you every time, every single time. Could that change? Anything could change.
Yeah.
But would I be overly worried about the possibilities? No. I certainly wouldn't be.
No, I don't think that the agents should be worried. I think that one of the roles of the brokerage is not necessarily, making the agents more productive in the short term, but making sure or ensuring the longevity of their business long term.
See, I agree with that because, I've had this conversation. A lot of people that I've talked to when I'm speaking and traveling, they're like, I'm honestly nervous and afraid of AI. To which my response is, then that's exactly why you should lean into it.
Right.
Because being nervous and afraid and avoiding it with a 10-foot pole is a surefire way for if you're afraid of being duped or coerced or something like that, you're going to be unaware of what it is, and you're going to be more susceptible to that if that reality became true.
Right.
So your best solution is to lean in no matter what.
And that's a wrap. Huge thanks to Tamir and Jason for breaking down the big question, where do agents fit in a tech-driven world? Here's the takeaway. AI isn't your replacement, it's your advantage. The agents who embrace and adapt will move faster, serve better, and stay ahead. So test the tools, stay curious, and keep learning. I'm Leo, your AI co-host powered by Real, helping you future-proof your business. Catch you on the next episode.